So this is according to LBC. This article is trash, by the way. Christian teacher sacked after refusing to use trans pupils' preferred pronouns. Uses religious discrimination case. Those horrible trans people. If, trans person walked in and said, "My new pronouns are," and then the teacher was like, "But please, I'm a God-fearing Christian," and then they were instantly executed on the spot because that's how trans ideology works. That's the vibe the headline's given. Let's see if that's all that happened. All I did was refuse to say someone's preferred pronouns, not even their real pronouns, and suddenly I lost my job. Right, let's have a look. Let's look at the blurb underneath. A Christian teacher who was sacked. Hang on a minute. After looking at trans child's online safeguarding report and transcribing it to her personal computer, has lost an unfair dismissal case and religious discrimination claim. Right. So, wait, what? Are you telling me this teacher actually was nothing to do? Well, sure is this too. But the issue is that they were copying private identifying information of a child at their school onto their own computer, potentially sharing it with others. The teacher, who cannot be named, by the way, slight aside here, they've not named this teacher, and the reason they've not named this teacher is because it involves a trans kid, and the trans kid is not out, and potentially naming the teacher could out the trans kid, and the judge in this case rightly ruled that this kid deserves privacy for life and no one should ever be allowed to out them as a trans person. That is good. So it's good that this teacher hasn't been named. However, it would be, if ever able to separate these two people, be good to name and shame this teacher, of course. But it's way more important that we protect the child's identity. So if you're the kind of snooping person who can work out who this is, don't start putting it everywhere because it could ruin this child's life, which is what this teacher was trying to do, by the way. But they can't name this teacher, but they can name some poor random trans nurse who used the toilet at work, and now a bunch of gender critical people are trying to ruin her life. It's just double standards, and it is completely garbage. Anyway, the teacher, who cannot be named, was informed in 2021 a child... I'm not even going to say it. This article is trash. That a trans boy would be joining her class. The teacher raised concerns. The teacher said, "I am a transphobic dickhead and I want to harm this child." The head teacher, they said that to the head teacher. "I'm affirmed that I am required to give affirmative care to somebody who may regret it later." By the way, all that she was asked to do was just talk to the child as a person and to not insult them and not out them for no reason and delve into their private life. She wasn't being asked to inject hormones. She wasn't being asked to perform surgery. She was being asked to not be a fucking prick. Who would regret that? "Oh, I asked my teacher to call me a person at school and I regret it my whole life." It's just so pathetic. These fucking lying losers. It just disgusts me. "I am convinced that a blanket affirmative care would be very damaging, potentially leading to irreversible physical and mental harm." No, you're not. You just don't like trans people and you want to treat them like lesser in your classroom. The head teacher said, "You are entitled to hold your own personal beliefs and we fully support you in a right to hold those beliefs. However, as those beliefs, if acted on, could be a direct breach of GDPR and an act of direct discrimination, you must not act on them." So, I kind of think this of course, you're entitled to hold your personal beliefs. What are we going to do? Go in someone's brain and cut the bit of their brain out that thinks that? Thought police them? It is impossible, almost certainly immoral in every single conceivable circumstance. People can believe whatever the fuck they want. So I agree with this person. But this idea that these people with horrific beliefs are not going to act on them, I think is kind of short-sighted, because people's beliefs and their actions aren't unrelated. people act on their beliefs. That is what beliefs do to you. People with garbage beliefs are probably going to do garbage things. However, they are right to say you are technically allowed to think what you want. What can we do about it? However, if you harass this child or like breach their privacy, then you will be in trouble. The child was literally moved to another class to safeguard him from any potential harm from this teacher. Like, this is what happens when you hire gender critical teachers. They're a safeguarding risk to the students because they are horrific. The tribunal had, they were given strict instructions, including that she must use the name and pronouns the family requested when interacting with the child, because otherwise she'd be outing this child who doesn't deserve to have their life ruined because of some stupid prick who doesn't like trans people. The teacher escalated her concerns, and a representative wrote to the school saying it would go against her conscience, informed by her Christian faith, to affirm a young child in their gender dysphoria. Cool. All right, mate. Could you just point me to the bit in the Bible where it says that you have to treat trans people like subhuman scum? Can you just point to the bit which says Jesus said, "Thou must hate little children who happen to be trans"? It isn't in there. It's not because you're a Christian. There's plenty of Christians who aren't absolute dickheads who want to harm children. What are you talking about? It doesn't mention trans people in the Bible anywhere. In fact, Jesus says things like, love your neighbor, and talks about how even the Samaritans, the people who everyone in that time hated, could be good. Like, his whole fucking thing was about how you should treat people with respect. And yet, here you are, pretending the reason you want to abuse this child is because you're a Christian. That's bullshit. I'm not one of these Christians, I'm not one of these people who thinks, you know, oh, all Christians should be good, and the Bible tells only good. The Bible is full of all kinds of fucking bullshit, and I think that as a Christian, it's your like moral responsibility to not believe every single thing in the Bible, because lots of it is bad. But it's totally possible to be a Christian and not be a shit person, because there's actually more than one of them who fit that description. There's actually quite a few Christians who are not shit people. So it's totally possible to be Christian and trans, or to be a Christian and not hate trans people. It's just a pathetic excuse to try and hide behind because you want to be protected in court to abuse this child. She believed in the truth of the Bible. Sex is a God-given reality which should not be conflated with gender identity. Being male or female is an immutable biological fact. Just effortlessly blending gender-critical ideology with far-right evangelical Christian garbage. But anyway, the bit here it says, during that school year, she repeatedly accessed the child's online safeguarding file and the school's system. She created a report on the system regarding any welfare concerns she may have about the child. She was fully aware that her use of the system in this manner was unauthorized, and indeed she accepted during cross-examination that her access was wrong, not only on this occasion, but on all subsequent occasions. So she knew what she was doing was immoral and wrong and dangerous and possibly out of this child. She had gone behind the back of the school's designated safeguarding lead. The teacher wrote a letter to the school after accessing the child's report several times saying, I remain convinced the school is disregarding its duty of care. Fuck off, you absolute dickhead. Based on the information I have seen and heard, Child X is suffering from serious mental health problems. If they have any mental health problems, besides you claiming that being trans is a mental health problem, which it isn't, if they have any, they're probably exasperated by the fact that they had to be moved to a different class because their teacher was trying to abuse them and out them in front of a group of people who they didn't want to be outed in front of, and then who was going behind their back and disregarding safeguarding rules to access their private files. Like, you know, if there are people involved in like conspiracy style actions like this about you when you're a child, maybe it'll make you a bit paranoid. Maybe it'll make you feel unsafe. Maybe it'll make you feel worthless. Like, these disgusting things that you're doing, they don't have no impact on children. The school did not discover they had been accessing the files or transcribing them to her personal computer and memory stick until the teacher's legal representatives told them. God. Fucking hell. After discovering A was accessing the reports, the teacher was suspended, and former disciplinary hearing, she was fired. So, of course, she lost this. The information is hugely private to the family and is a snapshot. She cannot access it, so she has not seen all the work being done by the school, and she did not ask. Like, just brazenly breaching safeguarding rules, putting a child at risk, treating a child as lesser because of how they were born, trying to hide behind religion. And what did the article go with? Pronouns! Every single fucking time they write an article about pronouns and someone losing their job and a woke mob cancelling people, it turns out that they were some fucking freak who was putting a child's safety and future at risk because of some deranged, idiotic belief system they have. Yeah, it's just always the same. They're all like this. Yeah, it's just gonna go on a biological sex. Yeah, this is from the judge, and this is a good ruling, and written in a garbage way. So they have we conclude that the restricted reporting order should remain in place. In short, the right of the trans child to live a life in their chosen gender for the rest of their life prevails. If we were to place a restriction on the duration of a restricted reporting order, there is a risk that the biological sex of the child could become known in the future. So this is where it's like so depressing that the gender critical framing has become so embedded in like British media and law. Like, it's just going to take so long to root all this garbage out. The sex of the child, I mean, it's the same with the sex of any child. You don't necessarily know all of the bits because they don't do all of the tests. But here they're just implying that what they mean is birth sex. And that is, this sentence would be kind of fine if they had said there is a risk that the birth sex of the child could become known in the future. But where they just keep framing it as biological sex versus gender identity, they're constantly just framing like real biological changes to people. Like, if this kid is going through school and is medically transitioning, then their biology is actually changing, and you can see some of their biological sex. Like the bits that you interact with any person. So to frame like their birth sex as their biological sex is just so frustrating. Anyway, the ruling is still decent, but it's just fucking hell. This could result in the child's biological sex becoming aware to groups of people, including, for example, their future classmates, employers, partners, friends, and indeed, in time, their own children. Interesting framing. I mean, you would expect maybe their children would find out. But anyway, Child X has a right to privacy regarding their birth sex for the remainder of their life. Yes, they do. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, I feel like if all of this stuff, they started saying birth sex instead of biological sex, we would be much further along in the propaganda wars. Gender criticals have done very well to embed this bullshit framing. And I think we need to push back against it quite hard. Anyway, every time you ever see a headline that says someone loses their job because of pronouns, you just know for a fact that isn't what happened. And it didn't happen here. And this person's a fucking dickhead.